Hello, everyone. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to another episode of the Back of the Pack podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Walker. Thank you for tuning in. It's done. It's done. Another marathon in the books. We are back from the St. Jude Children's Research Hospital Memphis Marathon Weekend. I'm probably just going to call it Memphis Marathon Weekend from this point on, so that I don't keep stumbling over words, which I'm already doing. But it is done. It is in the books. We are back home in Kansas City after a wonderful weekend in Memphis. Now, you might be looking at the video and be like, okay, Kyle, why are you going to talk about the Memphis Marathon while you're wearing a Chicago hat? Well, remember, the Chicago lottery gets decided here in just a few days. As we record this on Monday, the results are coming out Wednesday and Thursday. So to everyone who has entered into the Chicago lottery, good luck. I am wearing a hat to support us all. Hopefully we all make it. We'll see. Everyone else will find out about Berlin as well. Again, fortunate enough, I'm already in, but Berlin gets decided this week. So best of luck to everyone in whichever or both races that you were trying to get into. So now let's go back to Memphis. I did love to see today that the Memphis Marathon Weekend, again, benefiting St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, they surpassed their goal. And their goal was to raise $15 million through this race, through the fundraising, through the registrations, through everything that surrounds this weekend. They were hoping to raise $15 million, and it sounds like they accomplished that goal. So I am super excited for them. That is great. Again, if you don't know, St. Jude was the charity partner for the run that we did back in September, the KC Hustle Run. They are just a great organization that will help, as my screen flickers, that will help families of kids who are going through medical situations, a lot of cancer, and so that these families don't receive bills. Things are covered through the donations of all the people who help with these runners and other various things, so that these families whose kids are going through whatever horrible medical event that it might be, they don't receive bills. And they are funded basically by us and you and all the people who can help out. And again, that's oversimplifying it. And I understand that I'm doing that. I'm not going to try and dive too deep, but we have previous episodes where we dive a little deeper into it. But it is great that so much money and awareness was raised through just this weekend. Again, that's one weekend out of the entire year where they were able to get $15 million on top of everything else that they do. So huge kudos to St. Jude, the city of Memphis. You put on a wonderful time. And really, that's all we're going to talk about on this show. There's not going to be any deeper meaning. There's not going to be a lesson to be learned. There's not going to be any of the little tips and tricks. This is all about the Memphis Marathon Weekend. As you can see, I'm wearing my finisher shirt. If you're watching the YouTube, see, look, finisher. Yes, I did. Oh, and over my shoulder, I'm going to try and point to it right there in the end. Boom. There's the medal. That is the full marathon medal for the St. Jude Memphis Marathon. Okay, so you see this rack right here. These are all the fulls. So that is my 10th full. All right. We've got Route 66 in Tulsa, Kansas City up there. That's New Orleans, Marine Corps, Baton Memorial Death March hanging down there, Chicago, Grandma's, New York, Boston, and now St. Jude in Memphis. So 10 full marathons. My legs are still hurting. I'm not going to lie. My legs are still tired, but before I go into kind of my experience, I want to just a huge thank you to all the support that we got online through the Facebook page and the Instagram account. And then we had runners from Kansas City, runners who listen to this podcast, friends of the show, shall we say, who traveled down there to do the race as well. And so to all the folks who went from Kansas City to Memphis for the race, great job out of everyone. I think I ran into everyone who was down there that came from our neck of the woods. So that was really great. But a huge congratulations to our first-time marathon finisher, Allison. Good job on your full marathon. She beat the heck out of me, which is great. I'm super excited about that, because if she finished after me, that means something went terribly wrong. But thankfully, she had a good race, and you set a PR. Look at that. On your very first attempt, you get your own PR. Isn't it crazy how that works out? It's wonderful. So a great job to everyone who traveled down there. So as for me, as for my experience this Memphis weekend, it was a whirlwind, not going to lie. Okay, so I didn't go down until the day before. Got up early on Friday morning, got in the car, and Mrs. Back of the Pack podcast and I zoomed down. We went to Memphis. Our GPS took us on what it said was a faster route, but it had us winding on one lane highways through the middle of God's nowhere. That was a fun part of the drive. Not really. But we get into Memphis and we immediately just go right to the expo. So the expo held in a nice convention center. It was, I mean, it was good for what it was. I kind of expected a little bigger. I kind of expected a little more, but they, it was still very well done, very well organized. Getting my packet and getting my stuff was absolutely no problem whatsoever. And so going into the area, their merchandise store, this is probably why I'm reflecting just a hair negatively on it. They didn't have jackets. There was no official marathon jacket. Now they had some jackets and some pullovers that had the St. Jude on it, and that was great. But there was nothing to kind of signify that event. For Boston, you get the Boston jacket. New York, I've got the New York, Chicago, grandma's, yeah, blah, 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 blah. But they didn't have jackets. So if I have any suggestion to make for the St. Jude Memphis Marathon weekend, you need finisher jackets. We'll spend the money on it. Oh, trust me, we'll spend the money on it. You just got to have it. Now, talking to one of my fellow Kansas Cityans after the fact, they all bought jackets. They're just going to have someone embroider, the 26.2 or the 13.1 for the ones who did the half, and, then like put finisher somewhere on it. And it was at that moment I thought, geez, what a great friggin' idea. Too bad I didn't think of that. And I didn't buy one at the expo. I know I could go order one now, but I've got my finisher shirt. I will wear my finisher t-shirt here with pride. This is actually the first time I put it on. It's a nice shirt. I kind of like this shirt. So no jacket, unfortunately, but if that's the worst thing that goes wrong, I'd say we're doing pretty well. So did the rest of that. And then I want to have another big shout out. So as I'm walking through the expo, I come up to the booth for the Little Rock Marathon. As a lot of you know, a group of us here are going down to do Little Rock. They have a full half, 10, 5. And their big thing, and you've heard me talk about this before, unless you're new, they will give you a 2-hour head start if you think that your full marathon time is going to be more than 6 hours. If you know that there is just no way you're going to keep that 13-minute, 44-second per pace mile going for the 6-hour full marathon, you can have an additional 2 hours. You will start 2 hours before the rest of the field. So you're kind of out there. I'm sure there's some support, might be a little bit of areas with non-support as the aid stations are getting set up and whatnot, but you get that head start. So you were given 8 hours to complete a full marathon. Now I know, and the reason I know this is because they kind of told me, and not as many words as I'm going to put out there, but I know that there are races that scoffed at them about this, who maybe have given them a hard time, who have maybe made it kind of feel like, hey, that's not really a thing that you can or should do. And to those people, I say, forget you, man. The fact that they put that 2-hour head start in a person who in their life could never get a 6-hour full marathon. There's a big difference between 6 hours and 8 hours. Let's be real honest. But someone who's never going to get 6, but they can sure as heck get to under 8. The fact that they now have an opportunity to do a marathon, to be a part of the 1%, to be a part of the elite of the elite of the elite, by saying that you have a full marathon to your credit, I say to Little Rock, good job out of you guys. Honestly, like how could someone here with the podcast Back of the Pack not be 100% on board with that? I am 100% on board with what you guys do, and I think it's amazing. So I ran into them at the expo. They knew who we were. They know who the Back of the Pack podcast is. They know that we're bringing a group down from Kansas, and so they were super thrilled to meet me and them, and we had a great talk for a while there at the booth. And again, just kind of talked about, we know that not every race is cool like this, and people want to give them a hard time about their finisher medals. They are the largest finisher medals in North America. They're big, they're gigantic, and I got to see this year's medal at the booth. And again, if other races don't like that, make your medals better. If you don't like it, do better. Don't hate on the people who are doing it right. So they're excited. That gets me excited for Little Rock. And if you weren't a part of this gravy train before, you should be now. We're all going to Little Rock the first weekend of March, and it's going to be super duper fun. So it was great to run into them at the expo. It was great to talk to the folks from Little Rock. I got to walk around, look at a few more booths, and then hit the road. I was staying a little bit out of town, so I was not staying downtown where all the fun was. And so left, went back to the hotel, There was an Italian joint right there in the hotel. So it was real easy for me to get my pasta and carb load the night before. I got flat Kyle already. I had all my stuff from head to toe laid out on the bed. If you're on the Instagram, you even saw it. And so I was ready for the next morning. Try and go to sleep. And if you've ever done a full marathon, you know the key word is try. You never sleep well the night before. I didn't sleep terrible, but I didn't sleep good. And so I woke up pretty early, got up, started to get dressed. Again, I am head to toe. Took an extra sweatshirt with me because I knew it was going to be a chilly morning to start. I'm glad I did. And out the door I went. It was a chilly morning. It had rained just a hair overnight. And you know, when you get that cold weather and then you throw that little moisture on it, that little remnants of rain, boy, that stuff can cut right through. Now, one of the things they had told us was you had to be downtown and parked by 6:15 a.m. because that's when they were going to start closing roads. Now, this race is not some long out and back, on Bob's Road. That's not what it is. There's a lot of winding and turning and going all around downtown. And so there are a lot of road closures. I don't know, maybe the whole race is probably condensed in this same 6 to 7 mile circle. And it's just a lot of up and down and out and around in this same kind of circle of 7 to 8 miles around downtown. And again, that's just a guess on my part. I didn't measure it out, but that's sure what it felt like. That's sure what it felt like. So a lot of road closures. So they said, get there early. Well, I'm prepping for this the night before on Friday. I'm looking at their website. I'm looking at their parking maps and where to go and how to get there. And I've got the computer out and I'm doing GPS. I'm like, okay, my starting location is this hotel. I want to go to this parking spot. This will take me this many minutes. And okay, this, that, and I'm getting it all figured out. All right, cool. Got it figured out. I'm going to get up and I'm going to go to this church that has big parking area. And then it's just a little under a half-mile walk from the church to the start line. Got it, man. This is easy. So I'm up at 5 a.m. on Saturday. I am dressed. I'm out the door by probably 5:20, maybe 5:25. I'm in the car, got the GPS in the phone, and away we go. Zoom. So I get down there, and that my GPS does not distinguish which is the good part of town, which is not the good part of town. I went through some pretty yikes areas, but I get to this church. And I'm there and I see some cars kind of sitting in front of this parking lot. I wonder why they're not pulling in. Is it not unlocked yet? What's the problem? So I kind of pull up and this guy gets out of his pickup truck and he comes over and he talks to me. And I said, can I park in here? He's like, no, they're not letting anyone park in here today. But the official race says we can park in here. And I think he was tired of getting yelled at already. And he goes, don't yell at me. This is just what they told me. I'm like, whoa, not yelling, not yelling at you one little bit. No, trying to understand, because me as a person who is not a part or, not part of this town, not from this town, I don't know what in the world I'm doing. I just only did what the race people told me to do. So he wouldn't let me park in the church parking lot. So I just kind of had to turn around. I went a couple blocks down the road, pulled off on the side of the road, and I'm trying to figure out what to do. Because again, not my area. I don't know where I'm going. So I find another parking option that they list on the website. I put the GPS in there. I'm thinking, okay, this is a lot closer to the start line and finish line area. So I imagine this is going to be a disaster to get into. And another bad part, it's a parking garage. So parking garages can be, just a nightmare to get in and out of. But I'm like, hey, I need to be parked somewhere. I don't know where I'm going. So I'm going to go try this. So I get to the Beale Street parking garage. Traffic was not bad. I'm following the little line of people in there. As I pull in, it kind of comes to a stop. And I know that's because people are still winding around and going up. And there's always those people who have to back into a spot, no matter how many cars are behind them. And the security guard who's there, he's like, hey, because I had my window down. Like, yes, sir. And he's like, I got a couple spots right over here. Do you want one? Yes, sir, I do. So I pull off to the left. I'm able to get out of that line. And then right there, right by the exit, was about, 4 or 5 spots. And so me and a couple of people behind me were able to take these spots just bam right there. So I thank that security officer for hooking me up, because I really appreciated that. And boom, I was parked. So despite the almost disastrous parking situation to start with, I was able to get a little bit lucky, shall we say, and boom, I got parked. So I'm parked. I've got all my stuff on, still got my sweatshirt on. Wherever that sweatshirt is, I hope it's doing well in life, because I don't have it anymore. And off I go to find the start line. The start line, I can see why people were confused, but I think it's kind of awesome. I know that doesn't make sense. Let me elaborate. I'm walking and I find the corrals and I'm seeing all the corral signs and like all the people are starting to gather and I'm right outside the finish line festival. Like, oh, okay, there's a finish line festival. It's right here at the minor league baseball park. Cool. It's right there in front of me. All right. So I see a lot of people kind of going off to my left. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go off to my left and go look. I walk what feels like a half mile down the road, and then there's the start line. Like, oh, cool. There's the start line. Wait, why does that only say 5K, 10K start line? Huh, maybe they'll change it out because they leave an hour before the half and full marathon. That must be it. So then I start walking back the other direction, and then I see a sign that says half and full this way. Oh, okay. Well, I was over here, but now, okay, now I'll go this way. So I walk down what feels like a full mile, and there's the other start line for the half and the full. So they don't start at the same place. I found that fascinating. Don't see that from too many races. So at 7 o'clock, the 5K and the 10K, they start. And there were thousands of people doing the 5K and 10K. I mean, holy Toledo, that was a massive humanity that was starting. And so I'm just kind of sitting there. I'm actually sitting on this little cement structure, just, kind of watching, trying to stay off my feet. And I'm watching the parade go by, shall we say. And again, thousands of people to run this 5K and 10K. And it was super cool. The DJs or the people who, the speaker, they were getting everyone fired up and pumped up. They were doing wave starts. And I hate wave starts. I will always hate wave starts. But with this amount of people, I get it. And then the fact they were doing them pretty quick. It was 60 seconds or less in between waves. It was not long at all. Actually, I want to say it was probably only 30 seconds in between waves. So they were moving them along. They were getting them going, getting down the road. And I think even though the 5K and 10K started at 7, I'm pretty sure everyone was across that start line by 7:25. I mean, yeah, maybe somewhere in that area. So they got them down the road. All right. Well, then they start changing out the corral signs, getting them off of the 5K, 10K, and they start doing it up for the full and the half. I'm thinking, okay, here we go, baby. Now we're getting ready to rumble. A mistake I had made. I didn't know how I made this mistake, and I'm still not sure I actually made this mistake, but enough of a mistake was made. When I signed up for the full marathon, if they asked my projected finishing time, I must have glossed over it, and it must not have been a required answer because I didn't submit a time. So they put me in corral 16. Corral 16 is the last corral that there is. There is no 17. So I am slotted for the very last wave start of this entire race. I get it. Back to the Pack podcast. This makes sense. However, much like Little Rock, Memphis also wants people to do something they may not otherwise be allowed to do. So for the half marathon, they are allowed, I think, 4 hours, if not 4.5. For the full marathon, they are allowed 6.5 hours. So you get some people who, from the start, plan on walking or just doing a speed walk or kind of a run walk mix. But if they submitted a finishing time, no matter what they're doing, they were in front of me. And so I am all the way at the back. Now, it was great that morning. I got to see absolutely everyone. In a crowd of 20-something thousand people, I find our Kansas Cityans and the people who I knew were down there. So that was super great. That was wonderful to see everyone. Wish them good luck and get ready to go. First time marathoner Allison and I both made the same mistake apparently on registration. And so we are both all the way in the back in corral 16. Like to the point when we started the race, there was only like a row of 2 people behind us. And then that was it. So once we started, and again, the start was great. We started at 8 o'clock. We in the last corral crossed the start line at 8:27. So 27 minutes it took to get thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people across that start line. But even though it was a wave start, and I hate wave starts, have I mentioned that? It went pretty quick. Boom, 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 boom. They had everyone up on a video board, which was really cool. They had a crane camera that was panning the crowd. Again, the lady doing the countdown and everything, she was excited. Kudos to her, and we'll come back to her in a little bit. And so we finally get going. Again, right before we start, I ditched my sweatshirt. I hope it's helping someone stay warm in Memphis. Throw that to the side. I was neoned out and ready to go, baby. And so at 8:27, wave 16, the last one, we start. I'm going to give myself a hair of credit, just a hair. I started that race as well as I could. I did not go out too fast, which, as we know, is the absolute killer when you are trying to run any kind of a distance race. And I mean, that's everything from a 5K to a 10K to a half to a full. Going out too fast is the bane of our existence, because that will mess us up. Something fierce, no matter what your distance is. So I was very intentional about my pace, very intentional, to the point. Even after the race, Mrs. Back of the Pack, who was following on the app, said, "Wow, you were really consistent in your pace today." Haha. Well, yes, I tried. It was intentional. Haha. Almost like I know what I'm doing. No. But I maintained a very good pace, especially for the first half of that race. Like, if this was just a half marathon, I would have crushed it. I would have absolutely crushed that race if this was just a half marathon. Problem was, this was a full. This was my 10th full marathon ever, and it was every bit of a full. Now, my watch measured long. I feel like I have to say that all the time now. I think every race is over measuring just a hair, just to avoid it being under. Because if you are under measured, then your certification is jacked. If you're over measured, I don't think they care. They're like, okay, you're fine. At least you're not under. You can't be under. You can be over, but you can't be under. Okay, fine. Whatever, man. And so I did very well on the first half of my race. Now, at mile 10 was when we went through the St. Jude campus. And I want to tell you what, that was a very emotional time. I understand that if you go by the start of the race at 7 a.m. and you got the whole hour where the 5Ks and 10Ks are out there, and then you've got an hour more plus before me in the last corral gets 10 miles in to get there, I understand the crowds had probably fallen off a little bit. Maybe, people went back in the hotel, or they went, or hotel. Jeez, I'm sorry. People went back in the hospital, or, whatever the situation was, whatever it was. It probably wasn't like the full brunt of the experience when I got there, but it was still a lot. And the thing that really gets me is the families who just kept yelling and screaming, "Thank you." Like, I never have been thanked so much for running a race. Volunteers were thanking us. Yeah, the people at the hospital were thanking us. I'm trying to keep my composure here, but it never landed right with me. Like, again, all I'm doing is running. I am not doing anything else. I'm not doing anything of importance or of life-threatening type situations. I'm running a race. You are the ones who are going through these horrible, what I assume are horrible medical experiences. Your kid is sick. Your kid is going through treatments. Your kid has cancer. Whatever the case might be, I'm running a race. Like, I'm doing nothing. I'm putting one foot in front of the other. You guys, I want to thank you for having strength that I couldn't. And so it was really emotional going through the campus, and everyone I've talked to said they felt much the same way. It was just very emotional going through the St. Jude campus. So I want to sidetrack just a little bit now that I've kind of talked about it, and see if I can compose myself a little bit here. I did some recordings while I was out there, and I would like to put those in the podcast right now so that you guys can experience just some of the thoughts that come with running a marathon, some of the thoughts that an idiot who's really tired and running a marathon might have. One of the things I didn't think of in the moment, and I'm just going to warn you about it now. If this pertains to you, then fast forward a little bit. Okay. I'm trying to be real, trying to be fair. While I was out there, and we talked about this before, there were a ton, and we'll get to the crowds, but there were a ton of people offering liquid libations, adult beverages, whatever you want to call it. In some of these videos, just because it was what was going on at the time, I definitely talk about drinking. I talk about what we did, if I did a shot or if I had a beer, whatever. I know that there are some people out there who are trying to live that more healthy lifestyle, or just need to not have the addition of alcohol within their lives. This might come across as a little insensitive. And again, in that moment, that's not what I was thinking. And so, again, fast forward through this. If this is something that could be a little harmful to your sobriety or recovery, whatever your situation is, I just want to let you know that it's here. It's in here. There's going to be some reference there. It might even be a picture. Again, if this is something that's going to bother you, by all means, fast forward while you see my little live videos from the race. Okay. If you're cool with it, cool. Like it was fun. Like the environment was fun. And I'll talk about that as soon as I do these videos. But again, this is just my little warning to anyone that might be struggling with that, because the last thing I want to do is put someone in a bad spot, make anyone uncomfortable. If the alcohol stuff bothers you in whatever reason, please fast forward. Okay. We'll be right back. Here are the videos that I made during the race, maybe 3 to 4 minutes long.
All right, everybody, we're about to go to through the campus of St. Jude. So we're about mile 10 of the full marathon. I can hear people screaming up here, so here's hoping it's as awesome as they say. All right, I'm gonna flip the camera around here in a minute. We'll be good to go. I apologize for the shaky camera. I'm running here. All right, there we go. That was it. So now we're leaving St. Jude. Again, right at mile 10. So almost halfway done. But yeah, that was really cool to run through the campus. So let's get on with the rest of the podcast, whatever that might look like. But hey, again, thanks to the folks at St. Jude. Again, I know I'm huffing and puffing here, but it's been a wonderful race so far here in Memphis. I highly recommend St. Jude. A lot of people doing the half marathon. I think we might make it a regular thing to at least come back and do that. But yeah, it's really been an experience. So glad to be here. And now let's go finish up this full marathon. Back to our regularly scheduled program. All right, everyone, here we go. It's about to get real lonely here. We're at the split. Those few full marathoners still left. Half to the right. There they all go. Oh boy. It's gonna get lonely. But on a positive note, I did just make it through a beer stop. There's a nice beer stop right before the split. Don't know what it was that they gave me, but I'm here for it. So, oh boy. Let's see. Yep, there we go.
Just one more corner.
See the numbers there?
With you.
Oh boy. There's behind. All right. All right, there we go. That's a split. So it's just going to be me and my thoughts for the rest of this trip. The rest of this. Yep, there we go. Just split. Ooh, falling a little behind. All right, 11 miles done. Half marathoners are leaving us, so about to get intimate and be back in a little bit. About to mile 14. First beer stop. Not my first beer drink. First one where they're giving out beer. The whole thing. I can't do all this, but we're going to try anyway. So, anyway, what do we got? I don't know. We got a few miles left. 12 or so. Something like that. I don't know. We'll get her done. See you in a bit. All right, everybody. I'm back. Mile marker 17 is in front. Mile marker 17. So, we're now single digits on what we've got left in this damn thing. And again, I'm not cursing the race, just cursing that I was not ready for a full marathon. Clearly, all the halves I've done did not equal full. Shocking, I know. But, you know, we're going to get through this thing. It's actually been really kind of a fun morning. There's been a lot of crowd support out here and a lot of really fun families and friends and people that are cheering all along the course. So that's pretty fun. But, yeah. Oh, we're coming up to a timing mat. So anyone tracking me, and I know my guy Cody is. Thank you, Cody. You guys are about to get an update. So, all right. We are now 9 miles remaining. So let's get this done. And we'll see you at the finish line. All right, everyone, there we go, mile 20. Now in the rearview mirror. To say I hit my wall is an understatement. But we've just got a 10K left. So we'll get it done. But it has definitely gotten ugly out here. It's a bright sunny day, as you can see. It got a little warmer than I expected, but that has no bearing on the fact that I now suck at this race. But what are you gonna do? You hit the wall. We just keep going. We'll get her done. Yeah, aid station coming up. I'm thirsty. So, see you in a little bit. All right, everybody, hopefully you can hear me. It's loud. Mile marker 23 in the rearview mirror now. So, here in Memphis, there's a street. I'm on it right now. It's called Stonewall. This is the most drinking I've ever done during a marathon in my life. These MFers, they came out to party. And party they have. I have had 2 cups of beer. Let's see. Shot of Fireball. And a mimosa. The mimosa was lovely. But I think it was champagne orange juice. And that was it. Done. So anyway, all right. Just a 5K left. No big deal, right? Let's go get after it. We're chasing. We're on pace right now for a sub 6 hour. I'll take that since I wasn't taking this race serious. So a sub 6 hour works for me if we make it. If we don't, I don't care. We're having fun. See you at the finish line.
Okay. So as you guys can see, I was a complete idiot out there. I told everyone before the race, this was not going to be a PR race for me, although I was kind of close-ish to it. This was an experience, and I wanted it to be an experience, and I wanted an experience I could kind of share. I wasn't perfect about it. Again, I never took my phone out and recorded me coming down the finish chute. To be real honest, the finish line kind of snuck up on me a little bit. Like I got to mile marker 26, but when you get to mile marker 26, even though there's only like 0.2 left, you can't see the finish line. You still have to like go a little bit up a hill and then take a sharp right turn, and then you go down to the finish line. And it was out of my head. Like, whoa, look, there's a finish line. Hey. And at that point, I was just trying to run. I said it in one of the videos that I was looking at a sub 6 hour marathon. I did make that sub 6 hours. My finishing time was 5:57:30 something. I think it was 5:57:31. I'll take that. I'll take that any day of the week. Is that a PR? No, it's not. It's close to a PR, but this is while I'm recording and while I'm stopping to mingle with the locals, shall we say, in whatever capacity that looked like. I wanted to have more fun with this race. Sure, I worked hard. I really did. I worked hard, but I didn't take this. This wasn't Boston. I'll just say it. This wasn't Boston. I took Boston super serious. Boston, I wanted to be kind of my statement race. This was not. This was an experience. And again, running through the campus of St. Jude was an experience. And again, I ran all the way up to there, but well, and I even ran through it, as you can see in the video, but it was kind of after that. It's like, you know what? Whatever happens at this point. I'm happy to be here. I had a happy to be here moment. And so I finished the race in great shape. Like I felt good to the point we didn't even go back to the hotel immediately after the race. I met with some other friends that were down there. Mrs. Back of the Pack and I went and had some food. Then all of us went and had some drinks. And again, I'm sitting there, not showered or anything, stinking like a dead otter, but I wasn't so dead that I had to go back to the hotel room. But we'll go to post race here in a minute. So the things I want to say kind of during the race, we talked about the people on the campus of St. Jude and them thanking us. Jeez, not you guys remember old Wayne's World? We're not worthy. We're not worthy. That's kind of how I felt. that entire time. The volunteers out there were first class, top notch, wonderful, wonderful people with huge hearts for what we were doing. Every road that needed to be blocked was blocked. Every aid station that needed to be manned was manned. Extra people were just out there helping out. So the volunteer situation for the Memphis Marathon, top notch, very, very tippity top of the list. You volunteers made the day so much better, so much easier for us to just go out there and do our thing. Your excitement, your enthusiasm, your passion for what you're doing, nobody better. So to the Memphis Marathon volunteers, you guys are amazing. The city of Memphis, you guys, you clearly care about this race. You care about the people of St. Jude. And so the city itself wanted to make sure that this event went off without a hitch. I mean, they're closing down parts of Beale Street. They're closing down important parts of downtown for a very long period of time. I mean, by the time you talk setup and tear down, almost 12 hours. 12 hours of downtown commerce that the city's like, no, we got you runners. You guys do your thing. We're closing it down. No worries. So the city of Memphis, thank you so much. You guys were great. I very much enjoyed my trip there. The race director, the race volunteers, the committee, wonderful event. Your expo, while maybe not exactly what I expected, again, my expectations might have been unreasonable, entirely possible. The expo was very well done. It was very well organized, and I will always rave about an organized event. I like things to be organized. Race morning, dealing with, okay, so I know last year's race, they had 26,000 people. I think this year's was either equal to or more. You're dealing with something with 26-ish thousand people, and it went off without a hitch. You guys had everything started on time. You had the races going when they needed to be. Again, top notch. It was wonderfully done. If I have to come up with one gripe, and again, this is a runner gripe, and it's the only one I can really come up with, the streets in Memphis suck. Holy pothole, Batman. I'm amazed people weren't breaking ankles out there. But that's my only complaint. Yeah, there's some streets that definitely need some resurfacing, but that's the worst. That's the worst of it. Other than that, it was a beautiful race. We had a beautiful morning. Yeah, it started cool, but when the sun came out, it warmed up quickly. You can't tell because I have a really bright light shining on me, but I actually got some sun. Like I actually have a little bit of a sunburn, like right here on my chest and just a little on my face. Yeah, I think you can almost see. Nah, you can't really see, but yeah, where I had my little headband right below it, it's a little pinker than above. But it was a wonderful weather day. Again, it started in the mid 40s, if not low 40s. The wind picked up a little bit. The wind was no treat, but the course was beautiful. The weather was as well as you can ask for, especially beginning of December. Who knows what you're going to get at this time of year? And the event and the volunteers and everyone involved were world class. So I give the Memphis Marathon weekend 2 thumbs up, two back of the pack thumbs up. Not that we really have a scoring system, but that's what I give it. If people want to go back next year, I would absolutely entertain that notion of making a trip for the podcast next year to go back to Memphis. I'm going to half marathon it next year, to be real honest. I did my full. The half looked like way more fun, to be honest. And you saw in that video kind of how I felt when the split came up. And there were like 3 people in front of me going straight on the full, and everyone, like hundreds of people, were taking the U-turn to go to the finish line from the half. They looked like they were having a blast. And again, the first half is where you get to see all the really cool sights. Not that the second half of the race is bad. It's just there's parts of it that are pretty isolated. You kind of go through a park, and there's no one at the park. It's just kind of you by yourself. And yeah, it's kind of up and down a long street. So you kind of do the same street twice. Again, these aren't bad, and I'm not even griping about it. Just if you want to go for the experience, and I mean the full-blown experience of the Memphis Marathon weekend, do the half. Half's perfect. Half is perfect. And their medal was really cool, too. It was basically my medal right here, except it was blue. It was pretty. I think mine's a hair bigger with the 26.2, but not by much. So if you're a medal person, the half is a wonderful medal as well. So, all right. I think that's all I can think of for the Memphis Marathon. I'm still recovering. It's going to be a minute before I get back out to running. My next race is actually going to be excuse me, is going to be Saturday at the Westport Santa Dash. So we're going to be at Westport on Saturday. That race doesn't start until 10 a.m. So if you are going to Westport, remember, very late start. And again, they do that in December so that if it's cold, we at least got the sun up or whatever, although it's looking beautiful. We have been very mild now for December as of the last few weeks, which is great. Not complaining. I'm totally good with that. But yeah, so we're going to be at the at the Westport Santa Dash. That is coming up Saturday. Then the Sunday after that, not this weekend, but next, we have the Great Santa Dash, which marks my run-anniversary. So I would be excited to be out at the Great Santa. And so we just got all the holiday stuff coming up now, but it's kind of that, whew, the weight is lifted. The full marathon from Memphis is now behind us. And again, first class experience. I really enjoyed it. Oh, and I didn't really touch on what we did after the race. I'm sorry. We're going to backtrack a little bit. After the race, like I said, I found my people. So I found my other running friends. They were still at the Finish Line Expo, which was inside the minor league baseball stadium. That was great. I got to see all of them before they took off and headed back to town. So again, congrats to them. Then I met the missus and two of our friends, one friend who had already done the half. She is a world-class runner. She got fourth in her age division in the half marathon. So she was already finished, showered, and back on Beale Street before I finished the full marathon. But we met up with them, went and had Dyer's, the Dyer's burger, but that is from Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, world famous burger joint. It was wonderful. Their food was great. And again, right after a race, all I did was throw on my Back of the Pack podcast hoodie. And then I went in there and sat down, still had my medal around my neck. So I got some love from the locals, which was great. But I know I did not smell pleasant. There's no way that I smelled good after that. But I enjoyed the burger. It hit the spot after running that full. And then I get my way up the street. So Mrs. Back of the Pack podcast wanted to go to the Peabody Hotel to see the Ducks. So they do a thing twice a day where the Ducks get in a line and they actually parade through the lobby, and they have an elevator that takes them up to Duck Heaven or wherever their little upper level pond is. So she drugged me. Well, didn't drug me. I went into a bar called Jerry Lawler's. If you're a wrestling fan, you know who Jerry Lawler is. He has a bar on Beale Street in Memphis. So I went to Jerry Lawler's bar. I sat there and had some beers. She went and watched the Ducks. She got some barbecue, some Memphis barbecue to take back to our hotel room with us after the Ducks. I just sat there and enjoyed a refreshment or two. I think it was just two. And then we went back to the hotel. And so I did have some Memphis barbecue. I actually enjoyed it. Now, come on, I'm Kansas City. We are the best. But Memphis was actually very good. I enjoyed the Memphis barbecue a lot, especially after running a full marathon. So then that wrapped up my day. I showered up, enjoyed some barbecue, hit the bed early because I was tired, slept like garbage because my legs hurt, got up Sunday morning, had the breakfast at the hotel, then boom, we were hammered down back to Kansas City, clearly arrived safely, and here we are. So that is the post-marathon report. As much as you may or may not care about hearing that, you heard it now, so nothing you can do. And I know this probably already been a long episode of the podcast, so I should probably wrap this up, shouldn't I? Anyway, thank you to everyone who showed love and support while this marathon situation was going on. You guys were great. A lot of well wishes and good lucks were sent to the podcast. I appreciate that. So next week, if we can chase her down, we're going to have Allison on as a guest, so you guys can hear from someone who went through their first full marathon experience, because I went through my 10th. And if you would ask me questions after my full marathon as opposed to my 10th, things would have looked a lot different, because that was a long time ago. And I'm a different runner now than I was then. But we're going to talk to someone who just completed their first full, now in the 1% club. And so if we can track her down, we're going to do that. And if we can't, we'll talk about other stuff, because that's what we do. So, hey, please make sure you go out to Facebook, like the podcast, comment on the episodes, share an episode that you like. Again, everything that you guys do social media wise that includes this podcast helps it grow, especially in the eyes of Facebook and social media, so that maybe someday they throw a little more oomph behind us. That would be super great. So if you like what we do, I'm not asking you for money, just asking you for some love and attention. Show me attention. It's like you don't pay attention to me anymore. What in the world? Anyway, anything you do social media wise helps this podcast, and I appreciate it greatly. So this has been the Back of the Pack podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Walker. It is my pleasure, as always. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode as we are dead heading towards the end of the year, and 2024 is going to be here before we know it, and we'll be off and running yet again because running has no off season. We'll see you next week.